been doing this for 11 years already. My topics, let's keep talking about shitload in China. So my PhD is named Inexact Architectural Practice, and this presentation includes some ideations. I will explain some terminologies. That's theoretical foundation I built up. Probably you guys will understand. That's why I will talk about some cases. That's what I'm gonna explain. What is happening in China currently, and it's a good inspiration for you guys, I think so. And the third part, I will explain the design methodology and researching, which is Inexact Architectural Practice, and the fourth, the applications, contributions, and conclusion. I think my PhD will contribute. Firstly, ideation. If you look at the subtitle, it's called the Strategies for Post-Digital Architectural Design in China's Construction Context. So there's something I want to explain first. What is post-digital? I'm not sure if you guys are big fan of EDM. It's my favorite DJ is Demos, aka Demos, and Zimmerman. If you look at how he composed EDM, it's typically different from normal DJs. Basically, they're making music like you guys make using After Effects and Photoshop. They basically working on computers. But Demos preferred, probably because he's rich. He got a basement of hardware. So he liked to engage with physical instruments in order to get the feelings from or feedbacks from the instrument itself, and then bring it back to computers. I'm saying so because this term post-digital was firstly titled by this guy, Kim Casco, who is a composer of electronic music. And he liberates digital from its technically scientific and media theoretical lenses. Basically, it's not just electric wires anymore. And his post-digital statement was to respond to this guy, who is the founder of MIT, one of the founders of MIT Media Lab, Nicholas Nicopote, who said that, face it, the digital revolution is over. Now we're in the digital age where the surprising things only comes from other things. Of course, when it comes to architecture, all the scholars and the theoreticians are talking about post-digital as well. Let's say they're thinking about post-digital is an integration between virtual and actual. Because everyone nowadays have computers, you can learn grasshopper scripting tools, modeling softwares from basically free from YouTube. So we have taken digital power and this kind of capacity for granted. We're not doing digital stuff for digital sake. We're trying to engage what is virtually presented on the computer with the reality we have, actually the models. That's why I'm thinking you guys have to engage with models, not just using SketchUp or writings. Second, what is China's content, like you said, it's down, probably. I started architecture back in 2008, where Beijing just held the 2008 Olympic. 2 years after was Shanghai Expo. And that's when the non-standardization, non-linearity in architecture came to my side. And I went to the US, studied master in architecture, and I worked for Frank Gehry. So it's all non-standard. That's why I talk about non-standard. And also that's possibly the reason why you guys can making, because with computers you can just freely building non-standard buildings nowadays, design non-standard building nowadays with no cost basically. And like I said, part of the trend is because of academic push. Now in the Chinese universities, every year there's thousands, hundreds of workshops, like you guys are having workshops, and probably you guys can participate in those workshops as well. There's from 2007, there's AA visiting schools, SAR visiting schools, now Tsinghua, Tongji. Every year there's like more than 10 workshops every year. You can basically go there, learn the tools, and all these workshops, like you guys, they're not just teaching you grasshopper or scripting tools or modeling tools. They also engage you with fabrication as well. They, like Capo used to put it, Due to the CAD-to-CAD integration, basically digital architects nowadays, you are designing and making at the same time. You're not just making beautiful rendering. You are trying to fabricate it with whatever machines you have, either it's a CNC laser cutter or it's a robotic arm. And all these academic trend theories are trying to push the architects nowadays to become like Clarovich puts it, digital master builder, which means you engage with like DevOps, you engage with each instrument, you engage with materials, and you engage with machines. Like Drew has his own factory to build all those components. But when it comes to real building, it acts differently. So this is Guangzhou Opera House. Probably you guys know it. It's in Guangzhou. You can take a look at it next time you guys can try that. And it was labored by the traditional way of building style, which is you do the renderings and you send to LDI, Local Design Institute, for making drawings for you. But when it comes to non-standard buildings, this kind of formal complexity can be a huge challenge to a conventional way of. That's why I'm saying I don't give a shit about drawing, because when you only use drawing, shit can get bad. If you look at the details, it's definitely under the expectation of architects, because this kind of complexity you cannot represent with drawing, right? There's no elevation of section to tell the local contractors or the workers outside how to make this mesh work, right? So they just do it themselves. So you can tell it's totally under the certification. Then I turned to the non-standard buildings that built by Chinese architects. Like you guys, they learned the software probably 10 years, 20 years ago, and they come back to China, they start to build different things. This is under the group of architects I'm researching on. They are the founders of Dada. Probably you know this associate. It's digital architecture design associate in China. The reason I interviewed all these architects, I talk with them how they make buildings. The reason I chose them because they're not just architects, they're professors. They're professors from different universities. So they're both pushing the academic trend and they're practicing as well. So during my conversation with them, I normally found, okay, there's technical challenges like Zaha used to encounter in China. Look at this photo, there's some lady just freehand eyeball cut a form piece used as a guide for making curvy shapes. And they don't have the proper CNC machine to bend this rail, so they just cut it and bend it manually and put it on the wall over there. And sometimes it's organizational challenges because, okay, you have to follow certain rules, like they have to use standard drawings to make things work, because you cannot, like an academic environment, you just set file to a CNC machine. That's not the case, because there's certain stakeholders, because the fabricators only take drawings, because they won't take your CAD file, because it's legally written in the document, construction law. And in China, sometimes Chinese architects are seen as the professional drafters, because sometimes client came in with an idea, and so which means they already have the design themselves. You just make the drawings for them. And the construction supervision and the construction administration was taken by another party in China. It's called supervision engineer. I know in US, the architect have the executive architect, so sometimes they do the construction administration. But in China, it's a third party. It's called supervision engineer. So basically, what they do is they take the drawing from architect, and they supervise whether the contractor on site follows the drawing. So inevitably, the architects become the labor, and everyone becomes the labor of drawings. But that's the case. Again, to these cases, how do they control complexity? William Mitchell from MIT is to give a definition of complexity, which he said is a ratio between added design content and added construction content. So what is added design content? Basically, it means the input, like the script, the button you input, the grasshopper, the every lines you draw in CAD. That's the added design content. And added construction content. That's like when it comes to fabrication, that's a machine, work path. And when it comes to assembly or construction, as a leader, the activities you spend on that. So if you look at this, this expression is basically the low complexity, which basically means how you can effectively and efficiently transform your information to construction operations. So according to him, the Chicago apartment from MIS is low complexity because the same standard drawings can be duplicated to this 22-story high buildings. The courtyard, the roof of the courtyard British Museum is low complexity because the script for the whole components are simple. There's a simple code and you send it to a fabricator. It can be fabricated just chalked by a CNC machine. It's low. Because one simple line of script you can just duplicate. But Gary's MIT building is high complexity because the architect just had to go through all the details in order to describe everything. That's why I'm saying you guys, when you design complex building, you have to go through all the details. Otherwise, no one knows how to build it, even though this building leaks. Secondly, what can go wrong when it comes to shitty construction environment? So I'm going to use two cases. The first one is called Birching Tower, designed by one of the professors. It's an intestine-like building in Xi'an, China. It's basically a skin with perforations. So the architect thought, okay, whatever I do in computer, I can just break it down. And so he adopted a top-down method. Basically, he designed a form, just free-handed model in Rhino, and he tried to break it down to class and sections. But it's not going to work. At the time, the drawing was the only channel for him to connect with the fabricators. So, and the model, again, it didn't have any practical meanings. It's only worked as a visual reference for the fabricator. So when it comes to fabrication, you can tell this fabrication environment is really bad. It's volatile. I mean, it's literally abundant warehouse. There's no advanced CNC machines. So when it comes to form this 3D and three-dimensional curved panels, they basically only have this probably manually banded steel form and a waffle structure to form. And when it comes to these perforations, it's like the lady I showed you. They just eyeball it and a free just cut it by hand. So of course, when it comes to assembly, there's no precise equipment for them to accurately position every single panel. So shit happens. When everything put together, the contractor, they have to make it up. They have to just brush or use model to finish. And of course, if you go to look at the details, it's going to look bad because you can tell it's not a perfect sphere or something. And the model, the skins start to crack. That means when architects lose control of the whole thing. So you're not just designing a design, right? You actually, sometimes the architects are the only person who cares about the final outcome. They lose control of the complexity. That's what you got. The second case, you definitely know it. It's from Beijing. It's Media Center. Of course, this one is a successful one in terms of its final product. It's a demonstration of beam, and it's a super complex building because it's twisted and it's three-dimensional. The space is literally not standard. And the difficulty for this one is the three-dimensionally twisted structural system. But again, when it comes to structural fabrication, even for this case, this fabricator is called Huning Gangji from Shanghai. They built the bird nest, the Beijing Olympic. Now that one, most of the components are still two-dimensionally curved. This project is three-dimensionally curved. They don't have the machine to properly form all those, to form all those 3D beams. So you can tell besides the laser cutter over there, it's basically semi-automated, right? It's manually twisted. So they come up with a solution. We use wood to build the structure because wood is soft and flexible to build all the big components first, and use metal to match those wood guide as guide template, and then build a building. So they basically build the entire structure use wood first, like those, and they attach a metal piece to that, and then weld them together. So of course it's a success, but this project I think it took 2 more years than expected, and of course the cost is more. But this was a success because both the client, the fabricator, the architect willing to take the actual cost from his actual consequences. Also, it's like you don't have this capacity to realize that your design idea, but the architect don't give a shit about the complexity. That's what you got. So my PhD, the important question I'm asking is kind of employment of digital tools like we're using and help architects to better deal with project complexity. I'm now going to the hypothesis. So when it comes to theory, okay, Donald Sean and Brian Lawson used to say the architects is to clarify problems and to find corresponding solutions. So for me, architectural practice is problem solving. And form is one of the problems. I'll talk about form, and this kind of all these problems can specifically come from the context it defines. So in other words, the form has to relate to its literal context. It's not come from nothing. And of course, the factors that can affect this form problem can be internal, which basically come from the users, from the client, from the architects themselves, or come from external, which means like the fabrication restrictions, construction limitations. That's all external problems. And the solution, the perfect solution or the proper solution for design form is actually a common space between the complete solution space, which is the local context can offer you, and the problem space which the architects define. So there are some cases like, okay, if the problem, like this is a problem the architects ask, that's a solution. Like Mist's case, okay, he designed a standard building, so most of his design problem can be solved within the context that provided all these construction techniques or fabrication techniques. But in the case of these two, the problem that the architects raise is not perfectly matches the capacity of the local affordability. So there are some gaps. So like in the first case, the contractors have to fill in this gap. But sometimes when they fill in this gap, it's below your expectation, or even sometimes it will fail if you don't have the money for this case. So how to survive the Chinese context? I'm trying to talk about some ideologies. Even go to abroad, go across the border, you will see this face everywhere. You know him? Okay. He used to be the chairman in China. It's called Deng Xiaoping. So he is a father. He's a godfather for China's economy reform. So he started opening policy, which turns China become a totally closed country to at least semi-open. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't be here. You think about Hong Kong, the same thing. So he got a famous theory, which is called cat theory. It's a discussion about socialist and capitalist economy. But he said it doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, so long as it catches bats, which means it doesn't matter if it's a socialist economy or capitalist economy, as long as it works for China, it's good. So it also means something to Chinese architecture, and someone responds to all this ideology. You know this guy, Chang Yu-he, used to be the dean of MIT architecture. He said there are three attitudes in Chinese for contemporary Chinese architects. Either you can unconditionally accept what are the industrial environment, like you can just build boxes in Shenzhen, no one cares, or you can resist or criticize, like Wang Shu did. He basically criticized everything what Chinese architects are doing, or you can critically evolve. And he agrees with the third attitude, which means okay, there's no inevitable divide between the ideal and the reality. Again, it's the post-digital science. And when it comes to digital architecture, this is a guy, he's a dean of Tsinghua University, School of Architecture. He said, okay, Chinese digital architects, rather than simply, just combining Western and Chinese, they must root their practices in the social environment and technological environment in China itself. You have to be critically involved, not just like you want to be Zaha, then you design a building of Zaha. You don't pay prices, you have to pay. And again, this guy is from Tongji University. He's a godfather in digital in China as well. He said, okay, we need to integrate low-tech, labor-intensive construction with digital media as well. There's no way you can just get rid of all the circumstances and then go fully automation. And Li Xiangning from Tongji summarized it out. He called it the chimpanzee. I'm not sure. Chimpanzee. It's French. Husband, how does it? Chimpanzee. Anyway, it's a Chinese style. And he said it's a make the most of the architecture. I'm not going to go through all this. He said make the most of architecture. It's not a compromise to reality, but the intellectual strategy. And it's not, it's not an evaluation on the criticism to self-limitation. It's not something, but something. And it's not the best, but definitely fits the Chinese context more. So it's a balance between what you can do and what you can afford, basically. So I want to example some cases that make the most of it. Basically, architects learn this from their past experiences and failures. This project is designed by Archi Solution Workshop in Beijing. It's a 3D printed facade. It's the largest one according to the Guinness record. And this one, it's in Foshan. It's near here.
It's in Hong Kong?
No, it's in Foshan in Guangdong, like 2 hours away. It's 3D printed facade. So this one called Cabela was designed and built in 2016. Then the second one is called Arachne, built a year later. So the architects were able to bypass the organizational barrier. They become the material supplier and the fabricator. They're not just architect, they design and build. It's already lucky enough. So they have a workshop of 3D printers. They build the 3D printers themselves, like with our radar pieces probably. And so for the first case,
material did they print this in?
PLA. So at the first beginning, they thought, okay, I'm already become the digital master builder. I don't need to consider anything. I just need to consider the box, the capacity of my 3D printer, which is 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter by 800. So the first one, Cabela, is just a corner, but they designed the whole thing first and they cut it into segments. And then they gave the drawing to the structural engineer. He's trying to ask them to just horizontally match the horizontal connection with the plastic components. And that's the drawing they generated. And they use two types of, because it's free form, it's basically free form. There's no logic in the form. So they use two types of connections between parts. One is tandem and the modest. It's like sliding. The second is metal clips. Just split. And two types of connection between the plastic part and the structural components. Well, the first one you can see it can rotate 360 degrees, and the second is only slides along the steel members. But all these complexities cause the whole structure have uneven distribution of construction errors. And because the architect didn't consider all these things put together and what we're going to cost, we apparently is the arrows accumulate to a certain area where the gap is super large, and even the whole piece, the contractor had to use a all this temporary metal with wires to just try to push it toward the structure because it's not perfectly aligned. Even for 3D print, it can be precise. So for the second case, they change the strategy. They unify the standard component and the units. So the whole design was based on a standard grade. So they only make changes, even though there's 400 something different pieces, but topologically speaking, they're all identical. Geometrically, they're different. So it's easier to, it becomes easier for them to simplify design and to simplify all the connections so that all the arrows can be evenly distributed. So in the second case, it becomes much cleaner, and the effect is much better.
So this is next complex.
Sorry?
The next complex.
Yeah, because it reduces the content. So if you consider the diagram, so the first one, okay, the architect's the design problem is not perfectly aligned with the solution they can offer. The secondly, okay, they can make the most of what they learn from the capacity of. And I want to illustrate another three projects from RT Union, Philippines, from Tongji, Shanghai. The first one is called Sukubo in China. It's its own office. This was built like almost 10 years ago. And of course, they want to do some parametric Suki brick wall. But at the time, they don't have advanced machines. They only have computers. So the only way they can do it is by manually stacking all these bricks. So, okay, the intention is just transforming the image to brick rotations. But again, when it comes to construction, you realize that even though you can give thousands of different guys templates to contractor, but it's really hard for them to control the complexity. So again, they reduce. I think first there are 40 different types of rotation, and then they finally reduce it to 12, and then you can only use 6 because you run 6 templates. Just go with it. So the final outcome, okay, it's make the most of what they have, what the contractor can do. But you can tell it's not as smooth, but that's what you can do, and it's basically match the expectation of architects' design intention. The second case is Lychee Cottage is another case. And you can definitely tell from this case that the pattern is much smoother. And I went on set, I was wondering how labor can change. I found out that it's not brick, it's metal brick. It's brick, but it's not stone brick, it's metal brick. It's all metal.
Metal.
It's all metal. Well, in other words, I can say they think it's somehow. But it's metal. So the reason I don't have the proof, but the reason he used metal, you can tell firstly you don't need mortar, right? You just weld it, so it's become much cleaner. And for metal brick, I don't think it's built on site. It's definitely fabricated offsite. And for metal, you can ensure each single metal piece is CNC, just laser cut it, and it's perfect. And you can literally draw the wall on. You don't need to build it vertically. You can just build it horizontally, which must be easier for you to control. And you can literally draw the wall, everything, or you can cut the form in the factory, and then you use metal, and then you weld it, and then you ship it to site. So that's a way how architects change strategy to control complexity, because he knows if you use labor, like the first case, he won't have this precision, and he won't realize this design here. So that's why he changed strategy. Okay, the third case is more famous. It's Chisha. It's in Shanghai as well. It's not just a 2D pattern anymore. It becomes a 3-dimensional case. Because, like I said, they're not just architects. They're scholars. They're professors. So they have the capacity to do research and explorations on Foley automations. So in their lab, they have been experimenting this thing for years. So eventually this case was, I would say, semi-automated, built by robotic arms. So that's an image. But I haven't seen any videos. I don't know. But that's at least what they show. So all these three cases, I would say architect knows what he was doing. Architect, yeah, know, and that's the perfect solution for him. But how can architects to manipulate this complexity within one project cycle? Because these are different project cycles. Then I come to my research's exact architecture practice. Like Klarovich used to put it, there's no, the zero tolerance is an oxymoron for architects because we're not a rocket science, we're not NASA, we're not trying to send rockets into space. You don't need that kind of precise when it comes to ideas. So when you draw, when you guys draw plans, probably you draw like this, right? It's a fuzzy line. You don't have a precise line for a plan. So when it comes to three-dimensional, it can be fuzzy as well. So when we do architecture, we demand a level of fuzziness to express our idea and to keep it going. So that's actually what digital tools give us nowadays. When you write a script, you can generate just infinite numbers of geometries with single scripts. You can just change a parameter, right? So it's based on same logic. We call it objective. So it's not an object anymore. It's a bunch of objects, but following the same logic. So all the theoreticians, Gilles Deleuze, Bernard Kush, Patrick Gossi, Marie Couple, all mentioned objective. It's a system containing an infinite number of objects that can be expressed in many ways and allow for parametric variations. So in other words, this kind of fuzziness is allowed in digital software, and you can generate infinite objects, but they all following precise mathematical connections. So this objective theory and the exactness, the exact architectural practice, the exact is something between inexactness and exactness. It's something in between. It's like the Deng's theory. It's not black or white cat. It's something in between. That's a digital power can give us. So all the or we can further explain it as the objective theory in digital. It's exact, rigorous. So when it comes to how we make the most of it, how we find the design solution, a perfect design solution space. Like I said, when you design something, it's not a precise line. It's actually the fuzzy space. The idea is not precise, it's fuzzy line. And when you find your local affordability, like whenever it's in China or in Myanmar or in India, you found this a specific site in your country or the size, you reduce this fuzzy space towards this solution space until all these solutions are within this range, and then you pick one to further materialize. That's how you make the most of it. So it suggests a convergence diagram, where basically you put parametric objects first, and you interact with local constraints. That's why it's post-digital. You have to interact with local reality. And then you probably can discover serendipities, a new option from the local contents. Then you further reduce the scope until you approach the design solution space. I think that's how these guys, this design methodology can add it to how these guys said make the most of what Chinese architects can do, what the universal tools offers them. I summarized 6 point operational characteristics that can, for architects to operate with. First, I think it's a morphable design intention, which means when you design something like you need to allow slippage or allow changes to your design intention. It's not like the testing tower I showed. It's not a precise building because you're not sure whether that your design can be perfectly implemented in local context. So you have to allow certain range of changes. That's a level of fuzziness. The second is the American SWAG, which is SWAG, scientific wild as gas. You are architects. You have your own knowledge. You are not just doing it, just out of nothing, right? Like in Archi Union's case, they made a perfect expectation and estimation on what they can do before they generate the whole design form. So you can tell from 2009 to 2017, they changed the form already. They're not doing the first thing immediately. Right? That's one that's against, and it's scientific. The third, of course, is parametric ambiguity. Like I said, when you put something on parametric, it can be ambiguous, right? It's fuzzy. It's not precise as long as you keep all the parameters alive. Third is incremental materiality. That's, like I said, it's called Desmos composed EDMs. You have to know what the fabricators or the contractor can give you before. Like this case, it's in Rizhao, it's in Shandong, in China as well. They only have this 2D. They have to manually bend the whole thing. So you cannot make 3D curves in this case. So you have to design your building according to that. You have to know your enemies first. The fifth one is technological bypassing. When it comes to Philips US case, Archi Union's case, they do have the machine and they do have the authority to bypass some limitations of the context. Okay, then you can use that as your, as your boost for design. But that's not the case for most of our architects. The final one is concentrating performance. Like all the cases I've shown here, it's basically facade. It's all non-structural projects. So you can, within this, within the developing environment we have right now, except the first one, which means it's basically a state project, right? The country, the whole country are looking at it. So that one probably you can go for fully complexity. But most of the cases are just non-standard facade projects, which means you don't need to consider about structural performance or other stuff, or even the openings or something. They're just looking good. So the architecture trying to limit all the parameters in those cases in order to just simplify and lower the complexity. So then I'm going to use another case to illustrate how this architect control the complexity. It's a facade, of course, and the architect tries to just visualize all this ripple pattern on the wall. With simple scripts, you can generate all the forms. It's like 9 of them, just for further development. But when it comes to fabrication, you realize because normally it's a design build process. The architect designs something, then the client put the idea on bid, and the fabricators came in when the bid come in and then said whether I can do it or not, or how I can do it. So in this case, the architect wouldn't know who's going to fabricate it and what they are capable of until they have the idea and meet the fabricator. So they have to keep that level of fuzziness at the first beginning. So they have these 9 ideas. But when it comes to fabrication, the architect realized that they're only capable of using punching machines, not CNC plasma cut, which means they basically make all those holes like this. So it's not laser cut. You basically cut different holes at no cost. But this one, you have to use one drill bit for one size, right? So the opening variations matters to the cost. So they decide to, we just use 2 types of hole, one big, one small, and use standard units. But further, they just use script to further reduce the type of panels from 40 something to finally only 70. But again, at this level, the design is still ambiguous, still fuzzy, because you haven't fixed the unit size. You haven't fixed the dimension of two holes, basically. So there's still some options. Again, at this level, you already know what kind of fabrication capacity they have, and then they find the best solution, like I said. Then at this level, they can still modify the design. And because it is a facade, you don't need to wait all the construction to fix it. You can just delay it later for the fabricators, and they choose that one. Basically, they thought it looks better. So that's, again, probably it's not perfect, but definitely fits the company's goals. So discussion, my thing is, firstly, I think it can extend beyond the Chinese context. That's why I think it's somehow useful for you guys as well. I think it would be more practical for architects who are facing this kind of dilemmas that we're not. Probably guys from Germany don't have this kind of issues. Okay, so during this years of research, I've been talking to other architects from different contexts. This is from Iranian architects. They were able to pull this off. Some brick buildings as well. It's similar. When I was in Brazil last year, I was able to talk with architects from this one. Some people they graduated from AA and they came back to Brazil and they practice. Similarly, they don't have the precise fabrication or anything. They just use the copper to cut it, even probably hand cut it and build a wall. That's how they solve it. And this one in Chile as well. Somewhere over there, this interior design, like I said, you can play everything different scale. The interior design, they want to make this gradient, parametrically generated interior decoration, but it's fully made by hand. You just transform where you want to bend the thing, and it's manually built. During the past 4 years, I've been doing my own practices as well. I don't want to just being a student, so I've been trying to do different scales from benches to pavilions, interior designs, and houses. I just quickly go through one building I built in China, Guangxi is actually closer to Myanmar. It's a family ancestral hall where they just want to imitate their family name on the wall. So I was thinking, okay, let's just use brick, it's cheap, and just imitate with different lenses. But when I came outside, okay, they're still using this traditional Hoffman King, which the brick itself is not standard. Each brick is different. So there's no perfect way you can manipulate this standard material. And when it comes to construction, they just find some villagers to build it for 500, probably even less, 200 RMB, $60 a day. And every day they came in with different scales. Today they can make a straight line, the day after probably they won't. So again, but because the building is small, I was able to keep the whole thing in Grasshopper. This is actually this Grasshopper I use. And you can keep everything flexible, right? Because you wouldn't know, like, firstly I designed, okay, the whole line is probably 200 bricks, but when you came outside, you realize that you're only able to make 199. And that will change the whole pattern. So you have to keep everything alive until you realize how much brick they can lay on the brick on the foundation. Actually, they even didn't build foundation precisely, which means the whole pattern will change. So I try to simplify the design. Actually, at the first I think, okay, just use different bricks on different patterns, but realize that they're not robotics. When human build things, they're always looking for references. They don't know where to put the thing, right? Not like a robotic arm. It has its own universal system. The human doesn't know. A human doesn't know. So I have to only use stretchers for changes, which is the long side of the brick, and all the headers, the short side as a brick. So if you look at how they build it, so for whatever changes, like the yellow, the blue, and the green ones, they're always surrounded by a standard brick. So again, for them, I don't need any elevations, because if you give them a building elevation, it doesn't mean anything. What they need is the sequence of brick layer. So that's why I'm saying I don't have any drawings for this one. So I'm outside, I cut a brick, and they basically follow the label on each brick. Try to build the things. And of course, like this part, you can definitely shape it. But most of the part, you have to figure out the perfect solution. Again, I think this methodology also applies to education. That's the important part actually. So during this past 4 years, me and the tall guy was Christoph, we're teaching master students, year 1 master students here. We all teach for all of, I think 4 years we only teach bending grid shell structures. So, but when it comes to the studio, we don't give them assignment immediately or a slide. We don't give them program. We just ask them to make models. That's why it's like post-digital EDM. You have to engage with model makings in order to know, okay, what if I want to cut a model, what if I want to build model? I think that's just standard models. There's nothing at all. Actually, there's one big model on the rooftop as well. To know, okay, sometimes the material performance that just doesn't allow you to make a curvature. And then digital tools came in. We use Kangaroo to simulate, okay, the performance of the material. And then when you make them design, you came back to physical model. You can definitely tell, okay, that one doesn't work because the bamboo just doesn't twist like that. And some of this crack as well. Then the knowledge you learn from here, you further reduce the scope of design. The 4 become 2. Again, test with models, and then at this stage, probably you can evaluate it from an aesthetic perspective. But the first 2 stages, you're basically just learning what you can do, what the material allow you to do. That's the final one. And yeah, then it becomes a big one. Yeah. I'm gonna show you a video, quick video.